Can you believe it? It's episode 9 of the My Journey podcast presented by me, Matt Johnson. Today we'll be hearing from Rachael Smith, who is a comic creator and illustrator. I had the pleasure of travelling to Hebden Bridge for this interview, which is a beautiful little town, and the trip was made even better because I got to enjoy it during the heat wave. The reason I made the trip across was because I was keen to get Rachael on the podcast, and although she'd just been in Hull the weekend before for Hull Comic Con, we just couldn't make the time into work, so I said I'd travel to her if she was still up for it, and she was. In this interview, you'll hear about how her passion became a career and how the help of the supportive, passionate community around comics has helped her to go from strength to strength, leading to her working on her latest 200-page book. But before we get into this insightful interview, a quick bit about what I do. I'm a freelance personal branding and social media marketer offering a range of services. These include, but are not limited to, content creation, advice and support, management, strategy and training. If this is of interest to you and you're looking to take your brand, whether it be personal or business, to the next level, drop me a message at the MJ Social on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. So, let's get into today's interview, episode 9 of the My Journey podcast with Rachael Smith. Today I'm in Hebden Bridge with Rachael Smith. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Well, actually, I've been a bit poorly, but I'm being very brave.
Okay, we'll power through this and we'll get to the end, and then you can rest up.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, so I think the best thing to do, as I do with a lot of my guests, is to start at the beginning with education with yourself. So, how did you find school life?
Oh, I wasn't expecting to go this far back. Golly, I didn't have the best time in school. I got bullied quite a lot and had a teacher that was a little bit too interested in me. But yeah, I mean, I did well. But then I was a lot happier at college because you can just choose what you want to do. And so I did art at college and that was good. And then I did fine art at university. I've never really figured out why they call it fine art and not just art, but yeah, I did art at uni. And then I did, not many people know this, I did a master's degree in art, museum and gallery studies.
Oh, wow.
So I use that every day, clearly.
But where did that, so early on, obviously, you said you went and did art because that was a passion.
Yes.
Where did that passion start? Was it as you found it as a subject, or was it something you'd loved doing as a kid?
Oh, it's something I did as a kid, yeah. Like I've been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil, really. Like my mum likes to tell these stories of when we went on holiday and, you know, we had these long haul flights for like 7 hours and I literally just needed a big ream of A4 paper and a biro or something, and that was me happy. I would just draw and yeah, I was quite prolific as a kid. And I started reading comics as a kid as well. I loved Sonic the Comic. That was my first sort of foray into the genre. And I remember copying pictures of that like on the living room floor. Just
that like, did you enjoy drawing, or were you interested in how these people were doing these drawings? Like, were you interested in the illustrators and things like that?
I think I just wanted to make pictures at that point. Okay. I don't think I was sort of thinking, oh, maybe I should be branching out into watercolours, or although I was quite adventurous. I would just sort of use whatever was given to me though. Yeah. I don't think I'd be like,
so it was instinct rather than techniques and stuff.
If you gave me a biro, I'd draw a dolphin. If you gave me a pencil, I'd probably also draw a dolphin. I was into dolphins when I was a kid. But yeah.
And at college, you say like that's where you started studying it. Did you think of this as a career path at that point, or were you still thinking this is just a passion?
I'm not quite sure. It's funny to put yourself back there, isn't it? I think I sort of got steered away from illustration a little bit, and certainly comics weren't really seen as, like, quotes, proper art. But, you know, I still made a good body of work. I got quite into oil painting and quite into making videos and stuff, or lens-based media, as the module was called. I thought, why don't you just call it photography and video? But yeah, so I guess I sort of got a bit more adventurous with the mediums I was using, which probably did me good, to be honest, to sort of branch out a little bit.
Did you take inspiration from them? Because a lot of people found that doing like a different task or different kind of like way of working can sometimes inspire like their core way. So by using the lens-based medias and things like that, do you think that actually influenced the way you thought about your illustrations at all?
I think certainly making videos made me think about pacing and timing and stuff, and that's definitely fed into my sequential sort of narrative pictures. But yeah, I think being creative in different ways is always good for you, especially because comics is now my job. Sometimes it's just really nice to do a cross stitch or make a painting or something that doesn't matter. Like it's nothing to do with my job. Or I sing sometimes. That's really nice. It's really cathartic. So
it's quite interesting that as a creative you still find escapism within creativity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like maybe more like, generic 9-to-5 job find their escapism in creativity. So the fact that you can still find escapism within it is quite nice, really. And then obviously you said you went and did university. Where did you study?
So I did. So my college was in Stockport, which is my hometown, and then I went to Leicester for uni. So I went to De Montfort University for my degree, and then Leicester University for my MA.
And how did you find that university?
University was good. In between my degree and my master's degree, my father died. So my master's degree was a bit of a slog to get through. And I nearly put it off for a year. But I just thought, well, I'm going to feel a bit shitty, whatever I'm doing. So I thought, I'll just crack on and see how I do. And I did all right. I probably would have done better if I hadn't been going through that. But so it was a bit of a weird experience, but I learned so much doing my MA. And I sometimes think it was a bit of a waste of time because obviously I'm not working in galleries anymore. But then my mum always gets annoyed when I say that because she's very, education of any kind is never a waste because, whatever you're learning and you're learning about yourself. So I have to remember that sometimes. But
and did you go on to work in museums and galleries?
Yeah. So I went, after my MA, I moved to London and I worked in the Barbican for a little while. Nice. And then I got a job with a visual arts PR agency and it was all going fine. And then I don't know what happened. I just really missed making things because in London you don't have a lot of time. You sort of, if you're working full time, it'll take you an hour to get to work and then an hour to get back. And by the time you've had tea, it's like 10 at night and you've got to go to bed. So I just didn't have any time to make anything. And I think I was actually quite miserable back then, but I didn't really realise it at the time because I was like, on paper, I was doing really well. I had this great job and I had my own flat and everything.
Other people were telling you.
Well, yeah. And it was just, because I'd done my MA, this was what I was supposed to be doing. So I ended up quitting my job and moving back to Leicester, which is where my boyfriend at the time was. And I got a job in a cafe and all my family was like, what are you doing? And I started drawing again. And that was a big leap, but I was a lot happier once I started doing that. I was a lot poorer as well, but
But like you say, you were happier. Right?
Yeah, which is more important.
Yeah. And then at what point was it where you were like, you thought about almost, I don't want to say the word commercialising, but making the illustrations into something more than just something for you? Was there a moment, or did it just kind of naturally happen that people started asking more about it?
So, what did I start doing? So I think One Good Thing was the first books I actually made into physical things. So I did this webcomic for a while called One Good Thing, where I had to draw a good thing that had happened to me every day.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that online,
And that was to help because I still do, struggled for a long time with depression and anxiety. So I spoke to my therapist at the time and they thought that was a really good idea to do that because it was using my creativity as well. So yeah, I started doing that every day. And then I thought, well, it might be nice to collect a whole month of those days together and sort of release them as little mini comics as like sort of January, February.
Oh, nice.
And and I had a lot of fun sort of making the covers for them and stuff. And I realised I actually really liked putting physical books together. And then I did... My first Comic-Con was MCM London, so I really threw myself in the deep end. But I had some friends that were going, so they were like, "Oh, come with us. Like, if you've got a table, we'll take you and we'll look after you and stuff." And I had a few friends that in London as well that came to see me, which was really nice. And I think I only made like 200 quid, but that was way more than I expected to make at that point. I think it was that.
Was that selling the full books?
Yes, so the collected months.
Yeah.
I think I might have had The Way We Write by then as well. I can't remember. That was my first sort of mini comic as well. And I remember leaving that convention just thinking, I'm not going to let this not be my career now, because that felt amazing. Just like talking to people I don't know who were really interested in my work was just a bit. I wasn't expecting it. I thought of expected to sit there on my own for a weekend.
To friends saying, "Oh, this is really good." Someone who doesn't know you has no connection and says, "I want this."
Yeah,
that's nice. So, like, did you have any other jobs? I'm assuming you had jobs on the side as well. Alongside that, was that just more reinforcement to you that actually you didn't want to do them and you wanted to be?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really enjoy the cafe, mainly because my boss was horrible. So I got another job, like a full-time job at a local newspaper. And that was really fun for a while because they let me do a comic strip for them in one of their supplements, which was great. And that was like my first sort of paid regular gig. And yeah, I guess that was just being in the right place at the right time. But I like to think that, they liked my work enough to ask me to do that. I was going to say,
if I'd have been there, they would have asked me.
So yeah, that was really nice. And then once my career started picking up a little bit, I left the paper and got a part-time job at Curve Theatre in Leicester.
Okay.
And that was really nice because that was really flexible. So I could work it around doing conventions and deadlines and stuff. But also I just got paid to listen to other stories. So it was great. It was really good for my work as well.
So I got down that your debut graphic novel was House Party.
Yes.
How did that come about as like a project and becoming published?
So I was approached by an arts collective called Great Beast. And they'd seen some of my mini comics. So by then I'd brought out The Way We Write and I Am Fire. And they asked if I'd be interested in doing a longer form work, like a book with a spine, a graphic novel. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. I'd never written something that long before, but they helped me do it. They sort of, gave me a bit of a masterclass, which was really great. And yeah, we kickstarted that book. So that was when I sort of learned that I did have quite a big audience, because I asked, what did I ask for? I think I asked for $4,000 and it got funded in like 4 days.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, wow, okay, yeah. So that was when I realised people were actually paying attention a little bit, and I had people wanting to review it and stuff. And so, I'm very lucky to have had Great Beast pick me up like that, because they taught me a lot about the industry, and they really...
Excuse my naivety, but are they well known within the comic industry, or are they a bit more independent?
Unfortunately, they're not going anymore.
Oh, right, okay.
It was run by Adam Cadwell and Mark Ellaby, who are two very well established comic artists, and they had to pack in Great Beast just because they realised they weren't doing their own work. They were busy helping other people in the industry, which is amazing and very valuable thing to do.
So they're very much about taking on like new people and bringing them through.
Yeah, just people like me that didn't really know what they were doing, just kind of making it up as they go along. And they were like, no, Rachel, this is how you set out a page. Are you trapping your pages? And I was like, I don't know what that is. And everything like that, all the sort of technical bits and bobs that, you wouldn't really know if you were just teaching yourself how to do it.
Quite reflective of the industry? Is it quite supportive, or is that quite unique?
I found it amazingly supportive. Okay. Yeah. And I've made some of my best friends through doing conventions and meeting people. I think when I was starting very early on, I emailed a few established comic artists just saying, like, not really sure what I'm doing, have you any advice? And I think I emailed 3 and they all got back to me, and I just thought I wasn't expecting any of them to make the time. But
there's not many industries where that
I know, right? So I always think I always pay it forward now. If someone asks me for advice, I'm always like, yes, what do you need? What do you need to know? Like,
brilliant.
So
and that graphic novel got some good responses. It got some good acclaim and stuff like that. How did that feel? Again, getting that from external people saying how good this was.
It was surreal. And like, I still find it strange because making comics for me is a very personal and sometimes quite a lonely thing, because I'm just in my studio by myself, and sometimes my cat comes and hangs out, but he's a bit of a dick. But so I'm by myself a lot making these books, and then when they get published, to see people all over the world reading it and having opinions on it is really weird, because it's gone from 0 to 100 like so quickly. But it felt amazing, and again, it was just reinforcing this idea that I finally found what I want to do. I finally found a place where I actually feel like I belong. So
And what kind of time was this? Was around
when was House Party? Let me have a look. So I've got a big pile of my books here because I don't know my own work, apparently. 2014 was House Party, so quite a while ago.
And off the back of that, did you carry on working part-time elsewhere? Or?
Yeah, so I was still at the Curve back then. And then I moved in with my mum for a bit because I'd fallen in love. So I came back to Manchester. I came back to Stockport. And my mum was very kind about that. Like, she was like, yeah, stay for as long as you want. So by that point, I'd started work on The Rabbit, which I got approached by Avery Hill Publishing in London. And by this point, I'd put a pitch together for The Rabbit, and I was pitching it around.
I was going to say, I think I've heard of them as a publisher.
Yeah, so, they're super nice. They're so friendly. So I gave them my pitch for The Rabbit, and they sort of bit my hand off. They were really excited to have that. So they'd actually wanted House Party. I feel a bit bad about that now. But so I was like, oh, well, I'll do The Rabbit with you then. And that was great. So I knocked that one out quite quickly because I was just living at home. I wasn't, I didn't have a job or anything. I was doing commissions and stuff as well as that, but I wasn't having to, work shifts or anything.
Yeah. And that's the one that was nominated for Best Book?
Yes, at the British Comic Awards, in 2015. So that was also very surreal.
I was going to say that. And them kind of awards, they're like, is it people like yourself who are starting out, or is there some big names at them kind of things as well?
It's sort of there's different categories. What are the different categories? Unfortunately it's not going anymore as well. But it's Best Book, I think, Emerging Talent, which I got nominated for one year as well. Yeah. So Emerging Talent would be a sort of newbie that's sort of finding their feet, I suppose, a little bit.
Yeah. Like first project.
Yeah.
And you're now fundraising for, is it Isabella and Blodwyn?
Isabella and Blodwyn, yes.
Blodwyn.
Yeah.
So again, would you mind telling us a little bit about how this idea came about?
So through my love of museums, I still love museums, just don't work in them. My favourite museum ever is the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, and my favourite thing in that museum, artifact, is this bottle, which was donated to the museum by this lady from Surrey a long, long time ago. I should know, but I've forgotten. And she said the museum was fine to, X-ray the bottle and study it and everything, but she made them promise to never open it because she was pretty sure there was a witch inside.
Wow.
So my story is about what would happen if someone did open it, and there is a witch inside, and she's called Blodwyn, and she causes havoc for our main character, Isabella.
Wow.
Who's trying to study at Oxford Uni currently, but Blodwyn gets in the way of that a little bit.
Nice.
But yeah, you can find that if you go to unbound.com, if you just search Isabella, it should come up. And you can get 20% off if you use the code graphic at checkout.
Nice. And I think the question around that is going to be, obviously now you've got a bit of a following, you've established that at the beginning, and now you're about to release this. Like, do you have any expectations for this as a piece?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I suppose when you first started, it was kind of like, well, put it out there, and if something happens, it's kind of like, great. But with this, is there something like where you'd like to see it do certain things? Or is it?
I guess,
still.
It's my most ambitious project to date. It's like 200 pages, so that's the longest I've ever done. And I feel like I know what I'm doing a lot more these days, especially with like the writing and sort of crafting a story, which, when I was starting out, I didn't know what I was doing in that aspect at all.
Do you think the other subjects, the other topics you covered at college and stuff have helped you with storytelling? Making that transition from drawing images of a dolphin, let's say, to creating 200-page novel, or do you think it's just been a continual process of...
Maybe a bit of both. I mean, like I say, that making the short films helped a lot with sort of pacing and narration and stuff. But I think it has been gradual. I think I get a bit better with every book I make. Yeah. I also I've researched storytelling a lot as well. So I've got loads of books on how to sort of put a story together. And just reading a lot, I think, is useful. Not just graphic novels, but novels and watching TV shows and films and playing video games and trying to... Not too many video games. I played Tetris for a month. Why aren't I good at telling stories? I think just devouring stories in all different forms will make you a better writer as well. If you just read comic books, I think you're kind of doing yourself a disservice.
You're just going to end up reinventing the wheel to some extent if you just stick to your own medium. But you say like 200 pages, that seems like a task.
Yeah.
And is that something that's set beforehand, like we're going to do 200 pages, or is it let's just write this story and see where it ends up?
I just wrote it, and that's... I knew where I wanted the story to go, but it just took up that many pages, really. And then my editor at Unbound helped me kind of tighten it up a little bit, but there wasn't... it's hard. Part of me always wants to make the stories really lean and each page count, but there's always another part of me that just wants to meet the characters in all different ways and just let them be themselves in for a few pages. So I think it's that balancing act. I think I've got it pretty good in Isabella and Blodwyn. The script is all written and I'm just working through the pages. I'm about a third of the way through. So
actually illustrating kind of thing.
So this is what I'm working on at the moment.
That sounds like it's going to be a bit of a slog. But do you enjoy it all the time, or is it sometimes you're like, I've got to go to a studio and draw?
It's certainly a labour of love. But I do... It's my favourite thing to work on at the moment because it's my own thing. Sometimes I'm a bit like, I've got to start another page. But once I get into it, I really enjoy it. It's just getting my book out and starting is sometimes a bit hard.
Yeah, and you said there, like, you enjoy it because it's your project that you're working on. Do you do projects for other people then? Yeah. Because I read that you do a bit for Doctor Who, or have done.
So I still do covers for, like, variant covers for the Doctor Who series. But I used to, for about 3 years, I did they were called backup strips, and they were just these one-page comic strips at the back of each comic that would just be like a really silly story about the Doctor. So my Doctor was the 10th Doctor. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. And again, that was really good for my sort of writing muscles, if you like, because just being given one page to tell a whole story, like you have to make it really tight and to have a setup and a punchline in one page. But yeah, I did quite a lot. Yeah, over 3 years I was doing sort of one every 3 weeks. Wow. So that was really good. And great for gaining a bit more of an audience as well, because who doesn't know what Doctor Who is?
Yeah, that's true. And obviously we've got a wide array of your work on the table here. It's probably going to be like maybe asking you to choose your favourite child or something like that. But what has been your favourite projects that you've worked on?
I guess I'm most proud of my book, Wired Up Wrong, which is about me and my struggles with depression and anxiety. But I'm just really proud of that one because I know that it's helped a lot of people and it's helped people feel less alone with their struggles, which is amazing to know that I've helped people I don't even know with this horrible thing that, sometimes is really difficult to talk about.
That's quite a beast as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's quite big. 140 pages, I think.
Okay. So a warm-up for later. And then, obviously, you've mentioned, as we've been chatting about some of the other stuff you do, Comic-Cons and things like that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you went to your first one, like you went yourself. What's the point where you start being invited to go to these things rather than pitching yourself up?
Probably after I did Doctor Who, people were oh yeah, let's get Rachel. Because then you get invited to the Doctor Who panels and talk about, So, it was probably around then. So 2015, 16, that kind of time.
And then I've seen it a few times where you've seen some of the doctors being interviewed on TV and things like that. And I think one of the not famous but more well-known clips is, I think it's on the Graham Norton show, where a guy has a go at David because I think he says something. He's like, no, you can't say that about the Doctor or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And it's quite funny to see because the guy is so protective of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And he's a fan. And I wonder, do you ever get that with some of your characters where people are like, I can't believe you did this with so-and-so, or that kind of thing?
It's an odd one because I don't think my backup strips are seen as canon. Okay. So I did get a bit of comeback from the fans when I started. I think mainly because people were maybe a little bit jealous that I'd got that gig and, I wasn't really very established at the time. But mainly people hated how I drew his hair. Like, they got very angry. They were like, that's not what the 10th Doctor's hair looks like. And I'm like, well, his hair changes, like, mid-take. Like, his hair's actually really difficult to do. So, so I learned to just stop reading the forums. Just get on with my comics. Keep your eyes on your drawing board, Rachel. It's fine. Your editor likes them. That's fine.
This is the thing I was going to ask is, your editor, is he, going, that just wouldn't happen? Or is there almost...
No, I mean, the whole idea of the backup strips is that they're a little bit of a comic relief from the story, which sometimes the main interior stories can sometimes get a bit scary and a bit dark. So that my thing was sort of a bit of a free range. It was meant to be very silly, and it was.
Good. And then obviously Comic-Cons, I've visited Hulls at the weekend, and I'd say you're saying about the industry being quite supportive. I felt that when I was in that room, people don't mind me saying this, but it felt like a safe space for a lot of people. They could just be themselves, whoever that is. Yeah. But how do you find the Comic-Cons? Because obviously there's a difference between being a visitor there and being someone who stood at a stand meeting people all day.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I totally agree about them being a safe space, and I really like that about Comic-Cons. People can just I have a funny relationship with cosplayers because they never buy anything. But I'm very, but I understand why it's important to give someone the opportunity to dress up as someone else for a while and just be someone else. If you're not having a very good time in your life, you can just go and be Wonder Woman for a weekend. I mean, that's ace.
Yeah.
But for Comic-Cons, for me anyway, as an exhibitor, they're exhausting in a really odd way, because you are just sat. So it's not really physically exhausting, but it is, because you're just switched on the whole time.
Yeah.
And you're having to smile a lot. And of course, I love meeting everyone, so I'm going to smile anyway. But yeah, when you get back to the hotel, you're just like, your smiling muscles are just like, oh.
Yeah, and you've always got to be ready to talk.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, I'm just going to sit in a dark room looking really miserable for a while, because I've been I've been looking really happy and approachable all day. But no, I love them, and it's lovely to remind myself of how amazing my readers are, and you know, because like I said, that working by yourself in your house all day, like you forget the kind of I've lost all my words. You forget how people are taking your work, and you know, it's a bit invisible in that sense. It's not, you know, my webcomic, I would get comments on it all the time, like saying, oh, I like this page. Whereas if it's a physical book, you don't get that quite so much.
Yeah, anyone could be reading it while you're doing the next
right?
bit.
So it's really nice just to meet those people and meet new fans as well. It's really great. And for networking with your peers as well, it's really important to meet your fellow.
Quite a few illustrators at all, isn't it? Yeah. And I thought what I liked about it was, like, I don't know if it's the same at all of them, but it was all in one room almost. There's a little bit upstairs, a little bit outside.
Yeah.
But, so literally you could be walking around, and in the background there was like a drawing session going on or whatever, and that was quite interesting. You didn't feel like you had to commit to anything.
Yes.
So like, I went and watched the drawing session that the lady there was doing. Oh, that's quite interesting, you know, kind of thing. But you didn't feel like you had to sit in the room, be there for an hour, kind of thing. You could just take it in and move on.
Yeah, that's nice.
Around. It's quite good. And also, like, the vast array of things. So literally, there was like some really niche stuff I had no idea. Like, people dressed up and things like that. I was like, no idea.
I'm rubbish at. I've got better at recognising cosplayers, but I'm rubbish with all the animes.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say.
There's so many of them now. I'm just like, oh.
And then, like, you've got the other end where there's like Game of Thrones. Like, like, that's mass. That's very well known to everyone.
Did you sit on the throne?
I didn't.
Did you not?
No.
I'm not even a fan of Game of Thrones, and I was like, I'm going to sit on that throne.
I was going to say, I've not actually watched Game of Thrones, but it was, there's a complete breadth there, which I found was quite interesting. And also, like, complete breadth in terms of the people that are there as well, like age. Yeah. Like, there was literally, there's an older lady in a wheelchair, I think, who was dressed up, and then you had like literally little kids just dressed up as their favourite Pokemon, like, and it was quite cute to see like a difference of all these people coming together around one thing.
One of my favourite types of people to watch at Comic-Cons are bewildered parents.
Yes.
Where they're like, they've got like a teenage daughter dressed as some anime princess, and they're just like, I have no idea what's going on, but she seems happy, so I'm just gonna go along with this. It's so funny, because they're such a culture shock if you've never been to a Comic-Con before. Like.
Well, this is the thing as well, like, I think like them people as well, they've got an understanding that they might not understand this, like, because they're in like anime or whatever. But then you've got the parents there who are taking their kids on because they like Pokemon, which is quite a mass thing, and I don't even think some of the kids realise what's going on around them, and you've got the parents going, what is happening here, kind of thing. But it was really interesting, really cool stuff. I was going to say, like, what do you like to see when you are a visitor there at the Comic-Cons rather than an exhibitor?
This is embarrassing because I've actually never been to a Comic-Con as a punter. I've only ever exhibited, but sometimes obviously I do get to have a wander. Yeah. Oh, my favourite thing to see. I guess I just like seeing a lot of independent comics. That always my favourite conventions are, you know, ones that are comics focused. I'm not too bothered if there's a DeLorean I can look at, or, you know, tables and tables of Funko Pops.
There's lots of them.
I'm so bored of Funko Pops. I hate them so much. So just independent comics and creators just meeting people. That's what I like to see.
And you're within that comic.
For sure, yeah.
World. Do you discover new comics at these things?
Oh yeah.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So there's still plenty left out there to explore. Kind of
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's always new creators, especially at the bigger conventions.
Yeah. I suppose if you go into some of the more like Hull, like, I don't know if there was, but there might have been like a local person there who you might not have heard of as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to London Film and Comic Con this weekend, and I'm sure I will probably know about a third of the comics there. It's just so huge.
Right, okay.
So I'm going to give myself a budget beforehand so I don't go
Alright, is that your biggest thing?
Yeah.
Spending?
Yeah, spend all your earnings.
So you say like you've obviously got your 200-page mammoth beast in the works at the moment. Have you got any future projects lined up? Anything interesting?
I knew you were going to ask this, and it's really frustrating for both of us, I imagine, because I am working on a lot of things, but there's nothing I can really talk about.
Oh no, that's absolutely fine.
Because they've not been announced or. So at the minute, just Isabella and Blodwyn is that. Yeah. To be fair, that is the main thing.
I was going to say it is huge.
Yeah.
I was surprised you said I'm actually looking at anything else. And then also like for people who maybe aren't aware of your work, how would you describe your style?
I guess and my artwork's very cartoony. Everyone's got big googly eyes and stuff. It's not very lifelike, I guess. But the stories I write are usually quite slice of life. Like I don't do superheroes really.
Okay.
So yeah, it's more relatable things. But yeah, cartoony and a bit silly.
Yeah, that's cool. And then obviously you mentioned earlier. You used Kickstarter, was it? You're on Unbound now, which has got the fundraising element. And you used to have a Patreon as well. How do you find them platforms? Because that's something recently I've heard mentioned a few times. Them kind of platforms. I'm just wondering, how do you find them as like? Do you use them just specifically to raise for a project that you're working on?
So Kickstarter is per project. So for me, I've done 3 Kickstarters. One for House Party, one for Wired Up Wrong, and then the latest was for my sort of follow-up to Wired Up Wrong, Standing Your Power, which is about me going through a breakup, but it's quite similar. You don't have to have read Wired Up Wrong to read Standing Your Power, but it kind of it's me dealing with the same sort of problems, but also going through a breakup, so it's more of a story, I guess. But and Kickstarter's always been very good to me. I've been very lucky with that. My projects have always funded quite quickly, which is great. And you can do things like stretch goals. So once you've reached your target, I usually do a stretch goal so that I can get like spot UV varnish on the cover and these things called French flaps and things like that. So just to make the product, a bit more special and just nice to hold and just enjoy.
I used to work in marketing, so
oh, nice, okay.
I love print and stuff like that. I spotted that straight away. I was like, that looks nice. That wasn't cheap.
My printer at CPUK is like a wizard, and I'll just be like, I don't know what to do, Rich, and he'll be like, well, we can do this, and just was so nice, just gave me all these options. And he was like, yeah, I reckon you'll get that much. Let's just go for it. I was like, okay. So he was great. Whereas Patreon is sort of more an ongoing thing, and you can use it to fund things. So I used it to fund a webcomic I was working on, and I couldn't quite justify the time on it. So I thought, well, if I get $200 a month from Patreon, I'll start doing a page a week again. And I also did diary comics 3 times a week. I'm a robot. 3 times a week. And I did stuff like if you went for a higher tier, I would send you a postcard every month that I'd printed and drawn on the back of and things like that. But I managed it for a year, and then it just got a bit too much with everything else I wanted to work on. So, but I'm proud that I did it for a year. And I did a lot of good work through that. Like I'm proud of a lot of my diary comics. They were nice, and that kind of was like you say, a bit of a warm up to start things like Wired It Wrong, getting into the swing of diary comics again, and
and also like obviously going to be very British, and asking for money is not the easiest.
Yeah,
How do you find that side of it?
I usually, so for example, with Kickstarters, I would never message anyone one-to-one saying, hey, do you want to pledge to my Kickstarter? Because people do that to me and it always feels really icky.
It feels like you are rejecting them then.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, oh, you're really putting me on the spot. So I tend to just put it on social media and talk about it a lot. And then if ever I start getting embarrassed, I'll just remind myself that, I'm not asking for money for nothing.
They're going to get
I'm offering this product that I think is going to be really good.
So everyone who pledges on Kickstarter would get the final.
So the cheapest was like £3, and that got you the digital PDF of the book.
Oh, right, okay.
So I think it's good if you can offer different things for different budgets and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And then I was just going to ask about working through that funding and stuff like that. How, I asked this to a previous guest actually, how did you deal with that idea that it had gone from a passion to actually needing to make money?
It's a tough one. The hardest bit I've found about it becoming my job is realising that I don't have a hobby anymore. So it's just become my entire identity. So I'm a bit like, I should probably do something else, like for fun, but I've not got around to that yet.
Yeah. And then you said earlier about people ask you for advice. And I don't want you to give away all your secrets and stuff, but if somebody was listening to this and they're sat in GCSE, just finished the GCSEs, what's what's best summer, or just finished in college or whatever, what would your advice be for them if they thought, this is what I want to have my own stuff published, I want to be doing this as for me, but also as something to earn money? Where they are now, what's the tip you've got to get there?
Start small. A lot of young people start these massive graphic novels when they've not really figured out what their style is. So their drawings will get like really different as they go along, and then they'll be like, oh, well, I'll redo chapter 1 because it doesn't look like chapter 3, and then by the time you got to chapter 6, it doesn't look like chapter 1 anymore. So start very small while you're working out your drawing style. Just do a mini comic, like an 8-page thing. If you're struggling to find content, just write about what you've done for a week and then put it together in a little book. If you've not got the funds to get anything printed, just stick it on the web and send it out to your friends on Facebook. Start now, but start small.
And then obviously it's quite a business term, but that networking seems to play quite a different view in terms of, it wasn't traditional networking, like shaking hands and getting business cards, but being at things like Comic-Con and stuff like that. And I'm assuming even if you didn't have a store, you could probably take a few things in your pocket and just hand them out to people.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're there for as well as exhibitors. Like, I get a lot of people sort of saying, hey, can I give you this comic? And I'm always happy to take a look at people's work, and give them a bit of advice. I don't always have time to chat at the convention, but I'll always email you later and stuff like that. So yeah.
So coming to the end of this now, and obviously I've got 4 questions to ask everyone. I know this came to you quite late. So
yeah, I've not prepared, so
that's fine. So the first question is who or what has been your biggest inspiration throughout your career?
Probably Kate Beaton. She did a comic online called Hark, a Vagrant, and it's just, that was sort of the first comic I came across and just went, oh, I wish I could do that. And then I was a bit like, I could maybe do that. That was the first time I started thinking maybe I could do this myself and things like that. Just, again, she started small. She did a series of very standalone, quick strips, and they were so funny. And now she's a queen of comics. She's huge in the industry. But back then I found her so inspiring. I still do find her really inspiring. She's also very generous with her time. So she's spoken to me before, and even though she's this big famous person, she's not afraid to spend some time talking to people like me. Also, Mark Ellaby, who I mentioned was part of Great Beast. My work got compared to his quite early on in my career, and I'm lucky now to count him as a really good friend. So, I sort of have him. If I'm struggling with something, I can ask him about things, and he's doing so well. He did the he did Elabisms, which was his big diary comic, which is great. It's kind of brave, really very honest. And then he got a gig as head artist on Rick and Morty comics. So yeah, that's been that sort of catapulted him a little bit. So, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does next. But yeah, I find him very inspiring as well.
Cool. And then, what is your biggest learning from your career?
Biggest learning, like learning curve, or
just something like within your journey on being an illustrator. What was the moment where you thought, well, maybe either changed the way you were going or taught you something?
It's a difficult one because you have to. There's a lot of different jobs involved in putting a comic together, so you kind of have to learn to do a lot of different things. Like there's the drawing and the colouring and the writing. And writing good dialogue, and then getting things ready for print, which I'm still really rubbish at. And then there's the marketing and the, sending it out to shops and being brave enough to ask people to stock your stuff. So I guess my biggest learning was first self-publishing and just realising what an undertaking it is.
Yeah. There's quite a few people at Axe. I spoke to James McKenzie, who's a Michelin star chef, and he went from being a chef to owning a pub, and he was like, that running a business. He's like,
I bet he hardly had time to cook.
Yeah, he's like, I've never employed a new one. I've never had to think about marketing the place or anything like that. I've just cooked, and it sounds similar for you, or not cooking, but like you've gone from drawing to then having to think about all these other things that come with this world,
and. So I don't know. I guess just realising even making a mini comic is a labour of love if you're just doing it by yourself. Yeah. But going back to GCSE kids wondering how to get into the industry, I would advise to self-publish first. Because it's very unlikely a publisher's going to pick you up just from you saying, I want to do comics. But, if you've got a book that you've made yourself, a prospective publisher will know that you know how much work goes into every aspect of doing that, and you'll be a lot more...
I assume you're getting a lot of respect as well.
Yes,
more established people.
Absolutely.
And then the next question is, what's one tip for success in building your personal brand?
Personal brand?
Yeah, so in other words, like, your name becoming known within your industry, like how did you get to that point? I suppose like social media is quite...
Social media's been so important for me, and I've got better with social media. I don't think I was very good at it at first, but then I guess nobody was very good at it because it was new and everyone was just shouting into the void. But I'm careful not to just talk about my work all the time. I'm careful to also be like, hey, I'm watching this TV show. What do people think? Like just, chatting as well. Because it gets a bit boring if you're just selling books all the time.
Because people want to connect with you.
Well, yeah.
That's what I said to people, like that connection. People don't buy a product, they buy from a person to some extent. Like
and because a lot of my work is quite personal, like, Wide Up Wrong and Stand in Your Power, people are interested in me as a person, which is very strange. But I guess my biggest tip is just to be quite generous with your time, and sharing information is just I don't know if this is answering the question. What I found very important is sharing information to my peers and people that want to do this as a job. It makes the industry just a lot more supportive, and I
suppose as a collective, if the industry grows, you all benefit from that.
Well, yeah,
and
exactly.
if you're all fighting against each other, it's never gonna.
Someone else's success isn't your failure. It's So that's took me a long time actually to not feel jealous of other people, because it's so easy with social media, isn't it, to compare yourself. And yeah, I've managed to sort of feel happy for people rather than like, oh, Rachel, why aren't you doing that? It's maybe not jealousy, it's maybe just I get annoyed with myself that I'm not working hard enough. And I'm like, well, you know, those people might have just been on holiday. Like people don't work all the time. So yeah, try and be a bit easier on myself sometimes.
And then a nice one to finish with. What's the best moment in your career so far?
Yeah, I read this one just before you got here, and I was. There's so many. Can I take
a
few that are all similar?
Yeah.
And use that as my best moment. Okay, so it's always just so humbling and amazing when I get messages from people who have read Wide It Wrong and Stand in Your Power. Sometimes they'll just message me out of the blue and just say, you've really helped me, and I've started taking antidepressants and getting therapy and shit, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, that's so nice that I've helped you in that way. Like
it's not a particular moment,
it's not a particular moment. I get messages quite often from just strangers just saying, this is weird, but I just wanted to let you know that.
I think your work's impact people like that is quite incredible.
It's I can't really get my head around it. It's incredible. But it makes it all worth it. It makes the whole journey worth it if I know that I've helped just one person feel less alone, you know.
Yeah.
And I've gone from doing silly Doctor Who comics about him starting a band with a cat to like making people feel like, you know, like they want to look after themselves, and just I love that that's been the scope of my journey so far. And you know, who knows what I'm going to do next.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously, if people want to find you, where can they find you on social media, website?
If you go to rachelsmith.org, and that's Rachel spelled Rachael. It's the awkward way. Rachelsmith.org. All my social media and shop is on there. So yeah,
brilliant. And then just one last little question: if somebody wanted to get into this world of comics and stuff like that, is the best place to go to a Comic-Con? Is that the best way to get into it?
I would say so. Yeah, it's certainly, you could do a lot worse. Yeah, or if you can't, because sometimes they're quite expensive. If you can't afford to go to a Comic-Con, just go to your local comic shop and have a browse. And, you know, people that run comic shops are always super friendly.
So this will go after you've been at London. But have you got any coming up that you're at in the coming months?
I've got... Let me just check my own website real quick.
That's the website, rachelsmith.org.
Yep. Thanks. Is that AEL? Yeah, it is. Appearances. Here we go. I'm at Nottingham Comic Con in October, and I'm at Thought Bubble in November.
Oh,
brilliant. So Thought Bubble's in Harrogate. Thought Bubble is one of my favourite ones. If you can get to that one, that's a really good one to start with, because they do. So the Comic-Con is just the weekend, but they do like symposiums and panels and talks for like the whole week. So if you do want to really immerse yourself in that world, and
you don't have to travel down to London.
And you don't have to go to London, which is horrible.
Well, no, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
it's much
you.
Appreciated. There we have it, episode 9 of the My Journey podcast with Rachael Smith. I thoroughly enjoyed this interview. I think Rachel's story is inspiring, especially for creatives out there who are looking to turn their passion into a career. But having said that, it's not about what I think, it's about what you think. You can now let me know your thoughts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the MJ Social. And if you really enjoyed it, it would mean the world if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes. I have to be honest, at this point I don't have an interview for episode 10 lined up, although I am working on a couple of things. If not, I do have a backup plan, so make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast to see what happens next. Finally, just a reminder, if you're looking to take your social media to the next level, you can drop me a message on the platforms I've just mentioned, or you can email me matt@themattjohnson.co.uk. That's Matt, M-A-T-T, Johnson, Johnsson. Until next time, thank you for listening.